Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabados of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service and jbiztechvalley.com. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
And today we have a very, very special guest with us, Matt Downey. You're the president of the Board of Education of the Bethlehem Schools. Matt, welcome to the Jewish View.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Thanks, Matt. You know, it's been a long time that I've wanted to have you on the program, so I'm glad you were able to find it in your schedule to be here. Thank you, because I know that you're volunteering, and it's not a paid position. But I wanted to, you know, I went to the last school board meeting, and I listened to all the wonderful renovations and rehab that has been going on for all the different schools.
Right.
And I wasn't sure if this was something that started out as a smaller project and then got mushroomed into something larger, because once you saw that you had the machinery and you had the men on the ground, that you said, oh, well, you know, it would cost us less if we did X, Y, and Z additional now, as opposed to having to get them back in and ask the voters for more money or something.
No, the Bond Act was approved by the public back in March of 2013.
How much was the bond act?
About $20 million. Wow. So we're within the budget of what was approved by the district residents. Includes work on every building within the district, a lot of it being roof repairs right now. I mean, if you went up by the high school, you'd see we've been the construction company's been working diligently on replacing necessary parts of the roof. But you were and we want to make sure we maintain our facilities. It's an investment in the community.
Yeah, but you were repairing and replacing floors in the cafeterias.
I think they talked about asbestos repairs, where they had to asbestos in some of the older buildings.
And new playgrounds?
Yes, and a lot of those were donated. The money for most of that was donated by the community members, the PTAs of the various elementary schools where those playgrounds are set up. So
you know, but still, I mean, it's and what about the gymnasiums? Or
again, we're maintaining the facilities. The bleachers in one gymnasium were actually considered dangerous. So they had to be repaired. And again, when we developed that bond, we went to the public. We had public forums where the community had input. And,
I'm not saying it was hidden. It was totally transparent. I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying I didn't know until I got there, and I'm looking at the slideshow, and I'm saying, wow, and who's the company? Campus something?
Yeah, I forget the name.
But they're doing all the construction
management companies that we have, yep. And then they bid that out, and it's competitively bid.
Mark, let me just, as a citizen, just knowing people, even though my kids go to a private Jewish day school, I do live in Bethlehem, but one of the major reasons people move to Bethlehem is for the schools and to maintain, maybe I'm just saying the idea, the aura, but just the reality that this is a superior and A+ school, beautiful school, not only education, but just the buildings around them. It's just all part of the...
I don't take anything away from that. Yeah. You know, if you have a nice school building and you have a nice learning environment, you learn better. I mean, the Albany schools learned that, and they redid a lot of their schools. They had renovations on their schools several years back, and they made them all different bright colors on the outside, and to the chagrin of some of the neighbors. But they really had a new world. I mean, you know, you got to update to be, you know, computer savvy. You need to update all the internal wiring. You know, you need to take care of your buildings. Yeah.
Right. And that's part of the Bond Act. Does include tech upgrades, again, to be able to do a lot of the standardized testing. They want us to do that online, be able to transmit the files back and forth. So
what happens if you come in under the 20 million? Then you just have to pay back whatever you use?
Yeah, we would do that, or we may look, again, it would be a board decision, but we may look to say, okay, there's additional funds. And there were projects that we looked at that we weren't able to include in the 20 million, otherwise we would have gone over. So there are other projects that may be able to be accomplished.
Yes, well,
it's a huge facility. I mean, we have a $92 million operating budget, and so the facilities that back that up are, you know, we want to maintain that for the district.
Go ahead, Rob.
All right, Matt, I just want to, you know, from the beginning, what your position is. I mean, obviously I introduced you as President of the Board of Education. Is that appointed, elected, your pay scale for that?
Pay scale.
You're making $1 million?
No, we serve, there's 7 board members. We're elected at large by the community. every year there's 2 seats that are up, and then there's the third year, and they're 3-year terms, so there's 2 years where there's 2 seats up, and then the third year there's 3 seats that are open. I would encourage people to get involved and run anytime there's an election. We need to get people involved.
Well, can I ask you about that for a second? I'm sorry to interrupt, but in Dwaynesburg, they had 3 positions open and only 2 people ran. And then they had whoever the write-in votes were. They, you know, aside from Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, they found some unlucky soul who didn't want to actually run, get elected. Do you have a problem?
We have not.
People?
We've never had an issue. As I've been on the board 6 years now, we've never had an issue where we haven't had a full slate of candidates. One year when I did run, there were only 3 candidates for 3 seats. Other times there's been 7 candidates for 3 seats. This past year there were 4 candidates for 3 seats. So we do have people who are interested in running, and we've not had the issue of.
And there is no pay for this.
There is no pay. We serve volunteer. We meet twice a month from September through June, and then once a month in July and August. There are additional committee meetings that we have based on what committee you serve on. And like I said, we're elected at large by the district residents 3rd week of May every year.
And what is your power? I mean, like you say, you're talking about the budget or spending the budget. I mean, is it teachers, the principals, if they need a new principal, new superintendent? What is the power of the board?
The board's it sets policy for the district, and then they hire the superintendent. The superintendent runs the district, and the superintendent is the one who has a contract with the board.
So who hires the superintendent?
The board.
The board.
The
right?
board.
And
we hire, and then the superintendent is responsible for all the staff under him, and the contracts, like the teachers' contracts and the support staff contracts, are really contracts between those negotiating units and the superintendent.
Because
if you read
when I
that
was
contract.
at the last meeting, you had like 3 or 4 new hires. You know, one to do the bus routes, one for the food service.
Yeah, those this past year, I believe we had about 10 new hires, 8 of them being instructional, I believe. We had a new food service. It wasn't a new position. It was backfilling a position that had become vacant throughout the year.
Well, the school bus coordinator too.
Right. The district transportation person, Al Karam, great guy, accepted a job with Shenandoah School District, which left us a vacancy. We were able to backfill it from within. The assistant director, Cindy Jurowitz, was selected as the candidate for that new position.
Is there a residency requirement for the superintendent or for the other people who are
there is none broadly. I believe in the superintendent's contract there was a requirement that he eventually moved to the district once he was hired. He was hired from out of the area.
Superintendent Dr.
moved.
Douglas.
Yes, Dr. Douglas, and he does live within the district.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So, all right, I interrupted you.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
no,
Continue on with what you were going to say.
So we are elected at large by the community. We serve 3-year terms, and there's 7 board members. And then the board members, every year, the 7 board members choose the leadership for that year for the board.
But you have a say-so in the budget. You were talking about, I mean, you're knowledgeable about the budget and the Bond Act.
We develop the budget in conjunction with the administrative staff. So we're the ones who ultimately will vote on what budget we put forth before the voters, the district residents.
It's just interesting. I mean, just a democratic process. You would think also, like you say, I mean, it's not an overwhelming response even in Bethlehem. At least they filled the positions. But if someone wanted to really have a say-so, I mean, people are always complaining, oh, too many taxes, and not, to give an opinion, to sound like a bunch of Jewish people, they're always giving an opinion of what to do and not to do. And here it's like, you can be in a very powerful position almost automatically. You say 3 positions and 3 candidates, saying if you want it, you're practically in, and you have a real big say-so and a very powerful, position to say where the budget is going. So.
And $20 million budget. I mean, this is
$92 million.
$92 million.
It was a $20 million bond act.
That's what it was
for the renovations. But our operating budget is $92.6 million.
Maybe people don't realize it. That's why I'm just it's good for the Jewish view. The people out there, you always complain. Hey, you want to do something? You can really step into a very powerful say-so in the position if you really want to change things or have a say-so in things.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage people to be involved and come to our board meetings or open board meetings.
Now, what you do for work, you're a numbers geek, I take it. Because you do.
I've never been called quite that, a numbers geek, but yeah, I'm actually a director of an audit division at New York State Higher Education
Services
Corporation. Yeah, it's a state agency that does the TAP program, the Tuition Assistance Program, and numerous other scholarships.
So you have that audit and finance background, which is why you're perfectly positioned for dealing with a $92 million budget, I guess.
I guess it helps, yes. Yeah.
So does this, is when you see these numbers, does this get your juices flowing? Are you, I yawn, but maybe for you it's all different, but
I'd say it's a challenge every year. I think I've given you a handout, and our budget back in 2009, 2010 was a total budget of $87,560,000. This past budget that just was passed by the voters of the district is $92,627,000. That from the 9-10 to the 14-15 school year is a 5.79% increase. Well, if you go over further to the levy amount, and the levy amount is the amount that we raise from property taxes within the district. We went from $54,173,000 in 9-10 to this current year. We'll be raising $63,193,000 from property taxes. That's a 16.65% increase for the property owners, and that is because we're seeing over a very short period, 5-year period. That's because we've seen a decrease in state aid, and if you look in 9-10, our state aid was $28,156,000. This year, we're budgeting that we'll get $23,095,000.
What is the percentage compared to? I mean, you're saying a lot of suburban areas. Let's say Guilderland, Niskayuna.
I don't have those facts, but I would say overall, all school districts experience the same type of constraints. And
why would you even get any sort of a decrease when the lottery is booming? And it's supposed
you'd have to ask the legislature that question.
Well, I'm asking, someone who works for the state who isn't.
Well, my job at the state has nothing to do with school funding, so we got to set that clear.
But you're still an interested individual. You're not working in the private sector, and that where your mindset is somewhere else. I mean, during the day, you're still working for a government agency, and your mindset is.
It goes back to the state aid.
So with lottery, it's not in addition to, it's instead of state aid.
Well, it would appear that instead of supplementing it, it is supplanting it.
And that's a shame.
Yeah.
That is, in my view, I think if you're going to encourage this gambling and you're going to say if 40% goes to schools, it shouldn't be instead of the general the general funds.
Right. And the other factor in there, like I said, it was $28 million in school aid back in the 9-10 school year, and it's currently down to $23 million. Part of that is what they call the gap elimination adjustment. The state, the legislature, comes up with school aid is called foundation aid, and there's several other formulas that go into it, and it's driven in law what the district should get based on the formulas that run. And say we get the school run says we should get $25 million. They then will go and they assess us a gap elimination adjustment. In order to balance the state budget, they have taken money away from school districts. So instead of $25 million, we may get $22 million, and we have a $3 million gap elimination adjustment to help balance the state budget.
That's a shame.
And that's where we need the community to be advocates for us. We have our Assemblywoman Fahey, Senator Breslin, and Senator Kachik. She represents a small portion of our district. They have fought for us to get that restored. Unfortunately, we're still at $3.1 million in our gap elimination adjustment, which is money due the district, but then it's taken away after they do the formulas to fund the school district based on what everyone else is getting, and Bethlehem's share is $3 million less.
Do you think you could do something, you could do more with less in the school district when you have a $92 million budget? Can't you trim $3 million off?
We have trimmed. We have trimmed. I mean, if you look at the sheet, back from the 10-11 year to the 11-12 year,
right.
we went from 88,296 down to 86,829,000, and that was cutting staff back and cutting aides and cutting teachers and increasing class sizes, and none of us want to have to do that.
But are you cutting music? Are you cutting art? Are you cutting libraries?
I can't say. I would say every program has been cut. Every program has been cut.
Too?
Sports have been cut. I mean, you know, everyone is passionate about their particular area: music, arts, sports, academics, everything. Unfortunately, nothing's been untouched. We cut back in transportation. You know, it used to be students now have a certain
afternoon school, because I know some kids have been complaining, parents, afternoon school programs, they go beyond school, like, you know, after the whatever 2-3 o'clock time, and then they saying they have to raise money for the buses, you know, because if Bethlehem plays in Skiuna, they need a bus to, you know, to bring the kids from
we heard that.
Skiuna.
Right, we did, several years ago. Again, I probably was that fiscal year where we had to make cuts. You know, if it's a non-league game, then the teams have to pay for the busing for non-league games.
Why is lottery aid down?
I can't answer that question for you.
When the revenue is up.
Well, again, that's a question for the legislatures and the powers to be in Albany to answer that question.
We'll have Assemblywoman Fahey on the program, and we will.
And she is very supportive of Bethlehem.
Well, yes, of course. She would, I mean, anyone who represents the district would be supportive of it. I mean, you know, then every assemblyman and senator on Long Island supportive of their district. I mean, that goes without saying. You're committing political suicide if you're not in favor of your school district. So
they are, and unfortunately, politics gets involved in the education funding. Decisions are made based on what district is has a powerful legislative members.
And well, the funny story is when Nelson Rockefeller was governor, the little school district in Westchester, Pocantico Hills, got the most money, and they didn't have that many students, but Pocantico Hills became this this reservoir for money to be funneled down to Westchester County, where he had his house and he voted and all that. But I was just wondering, you know, Assemblywoman Fahey and Senator Kachik are former school board members, and Assemblywoman Fahey's staff person, top staff person, is a member of the Albany School Board, Ginny Farrell.
Yes, yeah, I've met Ginny.
I mean, you know, but they still can't seem to move the boulder.
And the legislature is made up of 200 and some members.
That's right.
That you know, you need to get the leadership behind and a commitment to education.
Do you go to the School Board Association Lobby Day and
I do.
Have their reception?
Yep,
do you
I
go
do.
to the reception?
Yep, I do. And actually, one of our board members, Len Lenhart, is president of the New York State School Board Association, serving this year and next year. Hopefully, she'll be reelected in October. So we do. We go in March. We meet with our legislative members, and we push for Bethlehem. You know, they're getting pushed from every district they represent.
Is the perception that Bethlehem still has a sports team and still has arts and still has music, so while you still have all of these what are considered extras in a lot of school districts, that you're saying, well, we don't have to give you some. Look at you doing so well. You still kept these programs, whereas the other programs around the state have been eliminated totally.
Schenectady.
Well, I wouldn't say they've been eliminated. I know Schenectady was going to eliminate their sports, and then the community came out in opposition to that. So I'm not aware of any districts that have cut completely all their sports.
In Western New York and the Finger Lakes,
and the Capital Region, I'm speaking of, but and music and arts, we want to maintain those. I think those subject areas are important for the students to have that a well-rounded education. It's critically important.
That's absolutely is, and I agree with you. I'm not debating you. I'm just saying that this is my take on. I've been in the Capitol, but I had listened to coming up will be my 35th State of the State message. And I hear the same thing over and over again. It's the names and numbers that change to protect the innocent. But everything else remains the same. So I just don't know, you know, and no one can ever figure out the state aid formula and the arcane way that it's figured out.
Yeah,
so
I think there's very few what I hear is very few people understand it. But you know, it's a formula-driven process, and then afterwards, with the gap elimination adjustment, that's when the politics become involved, and how much is restored at what district. Some districts ended up getting 50% of their GEA restored this year, where Bethlehem got, you know, a couple $100,000.
You don't hire a lobbyist. You have the
No.
SBA. You have the school boards for you. Okay.
Yeah. No, we do not have. We're our lobbyists, and our best lobbyist we can have is our district residents. Really, to reach out and to contact the legislators on an individual basis. They know us as school board members. They know us as community members. They see us. But the more we can get the community involved, the better off we'll be.
And I want to get more provincial, if you don't mind, for a minute. You don't paying the school taxes changed in Bethlehem. You don't go to the town hall and drop it in the box.
No, now you can go to Pioneer Savings Bank, either in Delmar or in Glenmont. That process was done to, actually it's a money saving process for the district. Again, we're always looking for ways to save money.
Because there's less staff, or is that what's?
Yeah, it costs less. The bills are being produced by the BOCES district, and then collected through the banks.
Now, why did you choose Pioneer Bank as opposed to Berkshire Bank or some other bank?
Again, I'd have to defer that question to the finance. Yeah, the superintendent or the attendant would probably know that answer better.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it was a competitive bid process or
what.
So. Yeah.
But you know, I know Key Bank has charges every which way, so I didn't know.
Yeah, I'm sure they did what was best for the district.
And and where did let's talk about yourself for a little bit. Where did you grow up? Where did you how did you get to this position?
I grew up in a small little community in Rensselaer County called Hoosick Falls. It's right on the New York-Vermont border. I grew up there. Some of my siblings still live there. I'm one of 9 children. My dad passed away about 5 years ago. My mom's still alive and living there. Then from there,
how old are you?
52. 52. Yep. From after high school, I went to Siena College, graduated from there, and then started working for the city of Troy, and then as in the assessor's office as an audit clerk, and then from there I went to the state and was an assistant auditor for various state agencies until such time as I went to the higher education.
Well, you've always had a love for numbers.
Yes, yeah. So and then my wife and I moved here after we got married back in 1990.
Yes.
And we love the community. It's a great community. We've raised our 2 children here.
Why did you choose Bethlehem? I had a friend who taught art at Hoosick Falls, Patty Mitchell.
Okay.
But I was just wondering, why didn't you stay there? Why did you move to Bethlehem?
To Bethlehem, I think for the school. And, it's very rural out there. Working for the state, it'd be about an hour commute every day. It's not something I wanted to do, so I wanted to be close to where work was. Okay. And then we chose it based on the school district really was one of the factors that we chose it for. And that was before we had our children.
Housing?
Yes, housing. And I think that the school district helps, right, quality of life, the housing, the close proximity to Albany.
Relatively low crime? Okay.
Yeah.
This tax cap, can you explain to the audience what this...
Well, it's funny, they call it a tax cap, and it really isn't a cap. I mean, if we wanted to increase taxes 100%, we could. It's really what they call a maximum allowable tax levy that you can set where you only need 50% plus 1 vote. If you want to exceed that maximum allowable tax levy, which they call the cap,
which is 2%.
It's a formula driven. It changes every year. I mean, on our sheet here, this current year that we're in, it was 3.12%.
Oh, okay.
If we wanted to exceed that, which we didn't, we went out with an increase of 2.99. If we wanted to exceed the 3.12, we would need a 60% majority vote to pass the budget. If we didn't get that, then the budget would go down, and we wouldn't be able to go above the 3.12.
So maybe it's the city's budget, so there's some...
No, it's our school budget.
There's some budget that can't increase by 2% more. I think it's the county budget. Maybe.
No, they all have that supermajority vote. So there really is there is no cap. That's what I'm trying to explain. It's really a maximum levy that you can have, but to exceed that you need a 60% vote. So if you had a 10-member legislative body, as long as 6 people on that legislative body voted for that budget, it would pass. And that's the difference between the school districts and the local town, villages, or county budgets. Those are passed by the elected legislative bodies. Our budget is passed by the local district's residents.
By the people.
By the people. It's the only budget you get to have a say in. And that's why it's critically important that the community comes out and votes, because they actually can say yes or no on the budget.
And have you seen low numbers in terms of budget?
No, we have a strong support. In fact, the first year there was a tax cap back in 2012-13. We actually went out with a budget that exceeded the cap. And we had support of the community. We had greater than 60% vote. And they supported us because had we not exceeded that cap, we would have had to make a lot more drastic cuts than we did that year.
Schools are so important to the people who live here.
Education is the most important thing. I think people need to understand students only have one shot at an education. You're a kindergartner once. You're a senior in high school once. And the more we keep affecting education, we're taking opportunities away from these kids that they will never have again.
What do you think of this universal pre-K idea when some districts don't even have kindergarten?
Correct. And it's not even mandated kindergarten. Right. I mean, you don't have to have a kindergarten program. We do, most school districts do, but it's not mandated. It becomes compulsory at first grade. So to make a universal pre-K mandatory, it was funny, I was listening to one of the Regent Talon a while ago, and he said it's kind of absurd. You could make pre-K mandatory, and then we're going to put them on a sabbatical for a year because we can't fund the kindergarten. Right. So people need to understand. I think it's important. Universal pre-K would be great, but we need to fund what we have currently, and we're not funding our education system appropriately.
So what's the situation in Bethlehem with
we do not have universal pre-K. We do have full-day kindergarten.
You have full-day kindergarten?
Full-day kindergarten.
And when are you going to institute pre-K?
We have not had any discussions about that. There's not funding for it. I mean, the funding that came this year's budget is not even enough for all of New York State. It's it was based on applications and based on the needs of the district, and Bethlehem wouldn't have ever met those needs.
Is there anything you want to add that we didn't bring up that you might want to talk about in the last minute?
I guess I would just reiterate that it's very important the community advocate for the school district and for the students, and that your voice is heard by our local legislators.
And we have to remember to stop school buses with with the red flag lights flashing.
Yes.
And you have to no right on red during school hours.
Always right. So and the other thing is the speed zones. Around every school district, 20. There are speed zones of 20 miles an hour. Please, even on Delaware Avenue in front of Ellesmere, please adhere to those. The children's safety is at risk.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks very much, Matt. I want to just also end off with kudos to you, because we have a lot of officials. Mark and I have over 100 shows, and a lot of elected officials, and they're doing a great job, but they're being compensated. Here you're a person who's working hard. You came to the show. No one's paying you, and it's a total volunteer act, and so not only are you doing a good job, you're not even getting, well, we could say in our business, spiritually compensated in the next world, but not physically. And you're doing a great job, and keep it going, and do it with good health.
Thank you. Thank you.
Best of success.
Thank you.